Welcome to Uplifting Humans, where we honor, empower, educate, and inspire the listener through real stories and expert advice. Our guest today is Kelly Hall Cunningham. She is the author of When God Says No, a book about her journey through challenges and through trauma. She's a mother who recently divorced. She's looking to change lives of young ladies who have been disempowered by molestation, abuse, trauma. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Sal, for allowing me to come on your show today. Thank you so much. I am
You're very,
honored.
very, you're very, very welcome, Kelly. Today's Mother's Day, and I know that you're a mom, so I want to wish you happy Mother's Day and just want to check in. How's your day going
Thank
so
you.
far?
It's going beautiful. Thank you. It's been a relaxing day. I think after the interview, I'm going to take a small nap, just a small cat nap, and that's all I'm going to do is just relax. Relax.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the best medicine for everybody. Now,
Yeah.
Kelly, I know that you've got a beautiful story of how you overcame all your trials and challenges and traumas through life. And through that story, we have many listeners that can actually uh, learn from what you've been through. In your own words, if you can just explain a part of, give us a snippet of what your journey was like. How was life growing up?
Life was beautiful. You know, I had two brothers, one older, one younger. I had a beautiful mother who cared about her children, who adored us,
Yeah.
who wanted the right things out of life. Until, she got married. It changed the dynamic of our family. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where my life started with the demise. It started going down. I
And
really believe that.
and how old were you then?
Well, I was practically 3 years old. 3 years
Okay.
old when my mom was she got with my stepdad
Oh,
father.
okay.
So they didn't get married until years on down the road. So
Okay. Okay.
about 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yes.
So at 3 or 4, what exactly took a turn? What happened at that age? What started to shift or change for you?
I don't think anything. I think it wasn't a shift then because I still was happy. I was the only girl, so I was spoiled. I was
Yes.
very close to my stepdad,
Yes.
and he was my best friend. So it was like he was my real father.
Mm, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yes,
And so you have two brothers as well,
I
you were
do.
saying? Okay. And
I
so they
do.
were
I
older?
have 2 brothers. One was older and one was younger. My youngest brother just recently passed away. Um, yeah, I do have 2 brothers who love and adore me, who took care of me.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and then, moving forward, what age did things change for you?
What changed? The age that changed for me was 13 years of age.
Okay.
I was older. Um, we had, like I said, we had a happy dynamic, but I didn't know what was brewing in the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I loved sleeping with my brothers in the same room. They had bunk beds, and sometimes we loved cuddling together because we were protected by my older brother. We just felt comfortable around him.
Mm-hmm.
So one cold winter night, I decided to sleep in the same room as them. I slept on the top bunk. My brothers, they slept on the bottom bunk, and I was just fast asleep. My mother was at work one night because she worked night shift,
Yeah.
and that's the night that took the turn for the worse. My mind, body, and soul, it was just shifted because I didn't know that it could happen to me. It happened to other people, but you didn't know it was going to enter into my household, a monster. per
Mm.
se.
Okay.
So that's where I am.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And so Kelly, the monster that entered into your life at the age of 13, are you able to share with us who this was? Are you able to share, um, you know, how you reacted and what transpired? Are you able to share any of those details with us?
I'm very open to tell you what transpired that night. Like I said, I was asleep, and I heard the door open. And it was my stepfather, who I loved and adored. He was like my real father. He came into the room,
Yeah.
and I started panicking because I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to take me to my own bedroom, because he didn't believe in boys sleeping and girls sleeping in the same room, which I understand that. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to carry me in my own room for me to stay in my own room. But this night it didn't happen. When he lifted the blankets, um, my gown came up,
Mm.
and I was afraid because I was like, "What is going on? I've never been touched like this before," and I was afraid. I was afraid, and there was an act that was done on me, and a still small voice said, "Stop, start moving." And just a little bit. And that's what I did. I listened to that still small voice that was in my head. And when I did that, my gown immediately came down, the covers came back over me, and I saw him back away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in shock. I didn't realize, I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand why it happened to me. Um, and I was traumatized by it because there was my brothers on the bottom bunk, and then I was on the top bunk, and this act was being done to me
Mm.
at that time while somebody was in the room with me. So you can only imagine,
Yes. Yes.
yes, what a
Totally.
child that age was going through. Mhm.
Yes, of course. And there's a massive confusion because
Yes,
you yourself are at a tender age of development yourself, and you obviously were not, um, not in a position to make sense of any of that.
right.
And now, can just for my own information, how old was your older brother at this point? If you were 13, was he old enough to handle, say, if something transpired, further than it should have, would he been able to handle your father at that point, your stepfather?
Well, he was 15 at the time, and he was a big guy, but if I were to scream out, what would have happened after that? That's why
That's
that still small voice told me to do what I needed to do, which was God's voice. Just looking back, it was God speaking to me.
that's right.
And he didn't want me to scream, because if I screamed, how would I know if there would be three dead children or if somebody would have gotten hurt? That's
That's
the
right.
main thing. And I think God in that instant, he covered all of us at that time. So I was obedient to the voice, and I think that's what saved us all. Not
That's
thinking
beautiful.
anything else was going to happen.
Mm,
Yes,
right. Well,
yes,
that's beautiful because you were using your sixth sense and you were moving into your, intuitively you were doing the right thing. So
correct.
that's beautiful. And so now next morning, your mom comes home. This instance had passed. Tell us, share with us a little bit. Were you able to communicate this with your mom, or was it something which was basically maybe I was hallucinating, or how sometimes individuals have a tendency to just shove it under the carpet, or
Right.
yeah.
Well, she wasn't home at the time. She didn't get home until after we left for school, because the school was right across the street from where we lived.
Right.
And so she didn't get home until like 8 o'clock. So
Mm.
my brothers, who who was my strength that morning. I was
Yes.
crying uncontrollably. And I remember running to the bathroom and I
Yes.
was crying so hard. And my oldest brother, he entered the bathroom and he asked me, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And I wouldn't tell him. He's like, he kept repeating himself. And then finally, I told what happened. My
Yes.
younger brother immediately walked into the bathroom and they both cradled me, they both hugged me, and they said it's going to be okay. And I felt safe again because I knew I had them surrounding me at that
Isn't.
time.
Mm-hmm.
My
Mm-hmm.
oldest brother, being the protector, um, told me I would have to tell. And I told him, okay, I would tell. That's the worst fear, having to tell your mother um, what happened to her daughter.
That's
So
right.
that's where I was at that moment.
Now, did you feel responsible for any of that? Did you feel maybe, or did that even cross your mind? Because, obviously, as a younger person, there is this, maybe I didn't do something right.
No,
No.
you know what, Sal? I never felt that. I just
Wonderful.
feel like there's generational curses that's been passed down from generation to generation. I feel as if it happened to someone, then that sickness it grows within, and then it's passed on, and then they do it, just like abuse, just like somebody being beat as a child. They pass it on to their next seed, and that's
Mm-hmm.
just how I feel. Do I
Right.
blame the abuser? No. Do I forgive them? Yes. But I do not condone the act. I
Right.
do not, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes,
Yes.
100%,
Yes.
100%. So
Mhm.
beautiful. So
Thank you.
moving forward, at some point you were able to have the courage, and I'm sure that it took an enormous amount of courage on your part to
Mhm.
speak your truth.
Yeah.
And how did your mother handle that?
I think that day after school, let me just say this, Al. I went to school, had a normal day. I was afraid because I people were looking at me, and I was thinking, "Do you know? Do you know?" Because now that scar is on you. And as a child, you don't know if what they know in your mind at the time.
Yes.
So when we got home from school, my brother, oldest brother, he walked me into the door and he asked me again, "Are you going to tell?" And I said, "Yes." And I started crying uncontrollably again. He then walked me back to my mother's bedroom because she always we always met her in her bedroom while she's getting ready, curling her hair, doing her makeup. And I was so afraid because I was afraid of hurting her. I was
Hmm.
afraid of hurting my mother because she loved this man. We loved this man. And I just can't imagine what she was going through when I had to tell her what
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Mm-hmm. And so
I
you
kind of
gathered
can't
your
imagine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so you gathered all of your wits
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you were able to communicate what you needed to communicate with your mother.
I was able to, yes. And I think
Wonderful.
she was in shock. There's a lot of questioning. Am I sure? Because he had a nice life. We had a great life. And
Yes,
I had to keep repeating myself. And just like being interviewed, are you
that's
sure?
right.
Do we want to
Yes,
move forward? But and do you want to call the police? Do you want? And my answer was no, due to the fact that I care for her so much. I did not want to hurt her any further. I didn't want to bring on more embarrassment to the family, and I felt like no was the answer. No was
mm-hmm,
the answer
mm-hmm,
at
mm-hmm,
that time.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that was communicated. And how was it handled by your mother? Did you feel that it was handled in the manner that it should have? Was it something that at that young age you would have been able to look at and say, mom handled it the best that she could, and what she did was right? Or did you feel like there was a lot more that you had to endure and go through.
No, I think my mother handled it very well. She still protected me. It didn't happen again. I can tell you that.
Beautiful.
But I think that she handled it in the best way any mother would handle receiving that information, that your child, your baby girl, your only baby girl, was molested by the one that she was married to and who was my dad.
Right.
So I feel like she handled it beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret what she did. I do not. I just feel like at that time she was traumatized as well as I was traumatized. So she handled it in the best way she possibly could handle
Right.
being a mother,
Right.
being a mother.
Right.
And I love my mother. Yes, yes.
So at that point, um, they would have gone their separate ways. Is that
Of
basically what
course,
happened? Okay. So I
they
just like to,
did. A couple of
right.
years on down, they did divorce.
Yes.
Um, it did. There was a lot of it was breaking of the family. When a family breaks up, it's so hard. It's hard on the children. It's hard on the mother
Yes.
because now you're restructuring a family, and
Right.
you get depressed because now that foundation has been broken, and it's like, who do you trust? Who do you lean on? And yes, that's where we were at
Right.
that time. Broken. We
Right.
all were broken.
And now just switching back, because obviously, people will go out and they will support you when God says no, is the name of the book that you have authored. um, for the listening audience, Kelly, what would you say to mothers or single parents out there that are living common law or any of the above, male or female? What would be your advice to them? Like, could your mother have done anything more than she had already done by raising you, by giving you, you know, a solid foundation and understanding of what is right, what is wrong, and how to live life? Was there anything that you really sticks out that you would you know like to share with our listening audience?
I would like to share that I think she did the best that she could. And what I would advise parents, if they're single, if they're divorced, and they know that they have children, and you're starting to rebuild with another family, you just gotta watch. You gotta pray. You gotta ask God if this is the mate for you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just jump into a relationship self, just for self gratification, just because you're lonely, just because you want somebody beside you. No, you have
Mm-hmm.
to hear that voice. And we all have intuition, just like you said, Sal. We have to
Yes.
listen to that voice because we do get an answer right off when we meet somebody. We know if the response is going to be no or yes, or if we can trust that person. And I just
Right.
say we just, put God before us and just pray to see if that's our mate that we should be with. Just pray because you will get your answer. You
Right.
will get your answer.
Right.
Yes.
So there's a
Mhm.
lot to be said about parents that have young children, because again, as much as a mother sacrifices her body to have a child, that's her first
Yes.
give. Her second
Yes.
sacrifice is that if your relationship goes sideways, please do your utmost best to remember that you are the parent, the mother who gave life to those
Mother.
children, and to really have that connection. That's beautiful. Thank you for that, Kelly. And you know I'd like to touch on something else, which I think is really, really powerful and very, very relevant, because you had an older brother, you had a younger brother, and what a beautiful bond that you had. That they were not just your support, but they actually they were like your two guardian angels on planet Earth.
They
And
were.
and what do you feel that your mother did in raising you and your brothers in order to instill that beautiful bond and that connectedness that your family had?
Trust. She allowed us to come to her about anything. She spoke to us. She's talked to us. She allowed us to imagine, to believe. She just had that trusting aura around her at all times. She
Mm,
always took us to church, so we had a strong belief in God, and we were stable. So that's where I would say it started, with her
right.
belief, with her faith. Her
With
faith is what helped us.
her, right. So her faith, and
Right.
then again, because of who she was, that enabled all of you to become very connected and be able to lean on each other. Now we're going to fast forward, and we're going to bring you to where you are today. What
Yes.
what actually brought you to the point of penning everything that you had gone through in your life and bring out this beautiful piece of work when God says no?
Well, during, I stayed single for a very long time. I didn't run into any relationships. I still stayed pure for a long time. And I went through a traumatic, abusive relationship. And my first relationship, where I was abused, and I was broken. All the beauty that was inside of me started being torn down, and where I was cheated on, where I was smacked, spat on, kicked, because I took second best. I felt like I was not deserving of better, so I chose um, to be in a relationship like this, and I stayed in it for a while. After that, I got out of that, and to be open and honest with you, I started dating a married man because, again, I'm looking for my father, but I'm looking for somebody to love me. I was lonely at the time, and that's where God started dealing with me. And I'm a dreamer. So he spoke to me in my dreams, and he was telling me about storms and chaos that was coming in my life
Mm-hmm.
that I had to go through. And you better believe I had to go through all types of storms, and I was abused mentally in the relationship, and I was broken down again. Once again, I was
Mm-hmm.
broken down,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it was because of my choices. Because I didn't listen to God. Because again, He came to me and He said no. He says, "Why do you want counterfeit when you can have the real thing?"
Mm-hmm.
Counterfeit meaning He was married, so He
Mm-hmm.
was my counterfeit. Why are
Mm-hmm.
you going to go over here when I can give you something better, give you your own?
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up marrying this man, who is the father of my children, two beautiful children. And we went through the ringer. It's in the book. So we went through, he and I, him, I would say physically, me, I would say physically, because that's how God deals with me on a physical, I'm on a spiritual level. And I can tell you one instance where I was in the middle of this relationship, and God gave me a dream. And I was holding this baby, and the baby was beautiful, beautiful little girl. And I was looking at this man in my dream, and I was like, we have to feed the baby. We have to feed the baby. And my eyes were set on him. But when I turned back and I looked down in my arms, the baby had died. So God was talking to me then. And I didn't understand the message, but all I could think about was I was going to have the baby and the baby was going to die. Well, one day he was coming to pick me up, and I was so happy because we were happy. And all I could think about, he was going to come and pick me up. We were going to go on this beautiful date. But something inside me again, that voice said, look up. And I looked up, and in the windows of my soul, it scared me so bad because all I could see was darkness. It was like I was dead on the inside. And and then the dream popped back up where I was holding the baby. So what he was saying to me, what God was saying to me was, my baby had died. My spirit man had died. So I became the walking dead. Physically, I was alive, but inside I was dead. My spirit man had died. And that started my journey. I went through a lot of spirit. I saw a lot in the spirit because God opened that door for me to see things that we don't see on a daily basis. We don't see what's going on around us, but then God allowed that door to be open for me to see in the spiritual realm and what was surrounding me. And I was a very scared person. I was walking scared, and all I could do was depend on this man who I loved and adored. And all I wanted was to be with him. And I was being disobedient at the time. I was being a very disobedient person. And there's consequences to our actions. I don't care if you are a molester. I don't care if you're a drunk. I don't care if you're an adulterer. I don't care if you're a fornicator. There's consequences to our actions. And that's where I had to write the book because God said, you're going to write a book. And I was like, me? I don't like to read. I don't like to write. And he says, yes, you. And I have to tell my story because it's going to help other women, other little girls not to go the same way that I did, just for the simple fact that I went through something as a child. I brought that into my adulthood. Right. And I just want to inspire. I just want to encourage women to say, no, don't go this way. Go this route. Because right. God wants you to go this route. He has something better for you. He has something so much better for you. Don't second guess yourself. You're not second. You are first. You're not last. You're first. And that's what I want to empower young ladies. You're beautiful. I don't care if we don't look like each other on the outside. On the inside, we look like each other. We have scars. We have bruises. At night, we cry ourselves to sleep, and nobody knows because we wake up and we got this smile on our face the next day, trying to push through.
Right.
We're trying to push through. Yes.
Yes. And so, Kelly, now we're going to zoom forward, and in your day-to-day life now, what is it that actually helps you to love yourself, to better yourself, to move forward in your life?
Prayer. God.
So have a solid foundation, have a solid tool, whether it's prayer, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, whatever it is that you have as your solid foundation that you can turn to when nothing else works.
That's right. Who I turn to, who I believe to be, is the Almighty God, the Holy Spirit that lives within me. Because when I was brought back to life again spiritually, the Holy Spirit dwells in me. And he leads me and he guides me, leads me and guides me. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that there's a God. And I know that he loves us. I know that he loves us. And he wants the best for us. And he leads us in God. He said, leans not to your own understanding. He said, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct our paths. So I
Yes.
know that he's leading me and he's guiding me every single day. And he's going to do the same for you. You just got to tap in. You have to cry out to God like you never have before. Cry out to Jesus. And he's going
Yes.
to show you, and he's going to show up in your life. He's going to
Yes.
show up and show out
Right.
like he did
Yeah.
in mine.
Yes.
Yes.
What a
Yes.
beautiful story. And so once again, this, ladies and gentlemen, is Kelly Hall Cunningham. She is the author of When God Says No. It's a book about her journey and through her challenges, through her traumas. And Kelly, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, where would they be able to get a hold of you? If they wanted to reach out, if it's another podcaster, if it's another interviewer, or if it's a young lady out there listening today, how could someone get a hold of you?
They can email me at who I am going to be at gmail.com. Who I am, I'm sorry, that's my other email. Who I am becoming today at gmail.com. Please forgive me. So it's
No
who
worries.
I am becoming today at gmail.com. That's where
And
you can
just
reach me.
right. And so, what we'll do is, I will put a link of that in the bottom of the podcast as well as the YouTube. So, if anyone wants to reach out to Kelly, she is an incredible human being who has gone through many challenges and is living her life with eyes wide open, consciously, with a heart wide open. We thank you so much, Kelly, for this opportunity to come on Uplifting Humans, where we
Thank
honor,
you.
empower, educate, and inspire the listener through real stories and expert advice. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you. My pleasure.